show.
No, I can't see the glare. I'll just put it here.
Okay.
We can glance down.
This is good. If we're glancing down, we're looking at the time. Welcome.
Welcome. Hi. Yeah. Well. So you look
So?
fantastic. Look at you today.
A little bit better than yesterday.
I didn't say that.
Yeah,
I may have implied it, but I did not say it.
That. Yesterday, I looked like Eileen Wuornos. You know who that is? Charlize Theron played her in the movie Monster.
Yeah.
I look like.
You had that hashtag just woke up like this look.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that. It's a thing. I mean, like celebrities and lots of people are posting these sort of glamorous photos
Beautiful
of themselves.
photos.
It's like, I just woke up like this.
And I posted this.
The real.
This
is really what you look like when you wake up with the baby and all that. How's that going?
That wasn't even like the first thing in the morning. That was like mid-afternoon too. So it wasn't just.
Let's not say that. At least pretend that was first thing in the morning, because wow.
Well, you know what? Look at me now.
You clean up nice.
Thanks to Toby Tennis at Influence Clothing, she clothes me, and then Kara at Loyal Hair Therapy does my hair.
Your hair's fantastic.
And so that's how I can kind of juggle this.
And that we should talk about that, because I mean it's a big issue for
Mommy
women.
wars.
Mommy wars, like.
Oh, you're a stay-at-home mom. Oh, you work.
Yeah, it's like what's the.
They're both hard.
They're both hard.
They're both very hard, but they're both doable if you learn how to properly balance everything.
So how's that going for you?
Pretty good, Doug.
Is that balancing
Is this
thing
real
going?
life? Yeah, no, it's actually comical.
Well, and that's, I think, what's great about you is your sense of humor about
You have
it,
to
and
have
the fact
a
that
sense
you can,
of humor.
and the fact that you can laugh at yourself and you can post that picture, because some people just wouldn't go there. But
I went there.
You went there, and I salute you for it. But just so that that conversation can happen. Right?
Yeah,
So that
that's exactly it.
So that people can say, right, look, I mean, she's a glamorous TV host who has all, like Pamela Anderson and doing all these things that you do.
It looks like that I don't have a real life sometimes. And I'm like, no, this is my real life. That other part is like this much, and then this is like 98%.
Yeah. And I think that's really cool.
But you've got, you're now taking care of your grandkids, so you're doing this for the second time.
Yeah,
How are you doing?
How am I doing?
You thought you got through that like how many years ago?
Well, my youngest is 16, so just like you start to see the horizon, like hey, what are we gonna do with the kids? Empty nest, like it's
and then
it's kind of and then and then the grandkids come along and I mean they're amazing. I mean, come on.
And you can't give them back.
Love them. So you just adapt and you take them in and like you make them part of your life. I mean, right?
It's hard work, but it's worth it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all about making it work, right?
So it takes a village.
It takes a village. It says it right there that it takes a village. Good thing we have notes.
Exactly. It takes a village to raise a child, they say. And lots of people are always like, where is this village?
Where's my village?
Where's my village? And like that picture I took of, I was wondering that at that exact moment. I'm like, where is my village?
I was going to come over with like a hairbrush or something.
Like anything.
Anything.
Some wine.
But you're right, though, that I think because a lot of people, we've lost that sort of community that we that humanity kind of grew up in over the centuries, and today, people move. I lost track of how many times I moved when I was a kid.
Or phone numbers. I've had like 300 phone numbers.
I've had the same one for a long time now, but that's because when I moved to Penticton to start working for Shaw, it was like a conscious decision and a subconscious decision that I just wasn't going to move anymore because I wanted my kids to grow up in the same town their whole lives.
Right.
Because I never had that.
And that's what I'm going to do now, because I moved everywhere too. And I just crave that stability. I just wanted to be able to hang up a painting on the wall.
I just don't want to pack anymore.
Yeah, no, totally. But people these days are just so lonely, and we have all this technology and all these things at our
okay, no, we're good.
At our fingertips, but we're doing it like we don't have as much of this.
Right. Yeah.
And loneliness kills, Doug.
Loneliness kills?
It literally kills.
Really? Oh, you got the next.
The Daily Mail.
The Daily Mail posted an article.
They did, and it says, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
And this is for real. Obesity and alcoholism may be bad for your health, but there's a less obvious condition out there that is just as dangerous.
Loneliness.
Wow. According to a study, the support of family, friends, and neighbors can increase your chances of living to a healthy old age by 50%.
Wow.
But the findings, based on an analysis of more than 300,000 people, suggest social isolation is as bad for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day or being an alcoholic.
Wow.
It also does more damage to your health than not exercising and is twice as harmful as obesity.
Wow.
Yeah.
So good thing that on today's show you've got one answer.
Some pioneers.
Some pioneers.
Building this village, this so-called village we keep hearing about.
Yeah, so this is. I'm very excited about this to learn more about the. It's a group in Penticton that's doing
CoHousing.
Right. Okay. So they're going to be.
It's also called urban villages.
Urban villages. Okay.
Yeah, and it's basically just picking your neighbors and coming to, and having a village and then a common house. And some people associate it with bad things like cults or
communes or something.
Communes,
like
but it's not. It's something that started overseas in Europe, and now it's hitting BC. I think there's about 7 in the Lower Mainland,
cool.
And now Penticton's getting one. So after the break, we're gonna meet the boys behind Penticton's newest co-housing village. Joining us now, we have Kristen Van Eck. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me on your show.
You're the young blood that I want to get into this conversation. We're talking about co-housing right now, and joining us we have Brian Rippey. Make sure I don't butcher your name, and Jonathan Rayom.
That's right, yeah.
And you guys are creating a co-housing, what do you call it, neighborhood in Penticton?
Yes.
Okay, and why?
Well, I guess I'll go first. Basically, because for me and my family, we're just not satisfied with the options that are out there right now. The current options for moving into a community or even a home, for that matter, don't really meet what I deem as sort of my core values or my needs. So.
Do you know what co-housing is, Kristen?
I've heard a bit about it. I don't know much about it, but I obviously would love to hear more.
Well, that's what we're gonna do today. You guys are gonna convince her, and then she can tell her generation. So what?
The old guys are going to convince the new blood, the old blood.
Yeah, and I'm part of this.
All right, excellent.
I'm part of this side of the couch. So I'm already sold. So tell us a little bit about, for people who don't know what co-housing is. I know a lot of people, like there was on Castnet, they were saying modern day commune, and that's what people come to mind is drinking lemonade and some kind of a cult. But it's actually something that's very popular that started back in the late 60s.
Yeah, it started in Denmark over 40 years ago, and I find explaining co-housing is challenging, but only because it comes loaded with sort of preconceived ideas. But really, co-housing is about a group of people that come together to plan and design their own neighborhood. So because they are in full control of all the aspects of the development of their own neighborhood, then they can kind of choose whatever they want to do. So on paper, it's a strata. So everyone owns their own house or duplex or condo. They have a piece of land and they own that, but they also own shared space, shared facilities, or shared amenities.
Like a common house.
Yeah, like a common house that would have, for example, a commercial kitchen, a large dining area, and some sort of a lounge area, so that that space kind of serves as a catalyst for interactions between people. Spontaneous interactions between neighbors, friends, people who live in that neighborhood.
And the ages, because we have young blood here, but it's multi-generational, is that right?
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's all different types of co-housing communities. The type that we're actually looking to develop is really multi-generational, where we have young families, we have single working professionals, we have single parents, we have empty nesters, people that are looking to age in place that no longer have children around but still want to be connected.
Want to babysit my children?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a shared resource for sure. So, and it's really looking for those people that have shared values and in addition, with the common space, you still have your private amenities. You still have your house with your own kitchen, your own laundry.
You can lock the door.
It's whatever meets your needs, and the privacy, that space is well defined in a co-housing community. There's buffers for it, and you still have your own backyard. So that doesn't change, but you don't necessarily have to have as big of a house, right? You don't need to have the guest bedroom, because now, say, the common house has got multiple guest rooms, and you don't maybe necessarily have to have such a large dining area, because really when you have a larger function, you can use the common house. And so there's that whole shared resource aspect as well.
And that's everything from building materials to architecture, all those things that can be shared amongst everybody, right?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at just
when you're designing a home, not everybody has financial access to all the design team members, normally like an architect and your structural engineer and other specialty developers and interior designers that help make that house more functional and actually help it be more comfortable. It's a lower energy building. It's better insulated. It has better design synergies. So when you get a group of people together, you have a scale of economy. So we can design a couple different housing types, whether it's duplex or single family, or in some places there are condos as well. If it fits the need, we have the ability to the options to give people a better, more comfortable, and basically more value for their money.
Right. Okay. What do you think so far?
Well, I'm just wondering. Okay, so say that to me just sounds like a neighborhood with a community center. Like, what's the main difference? Like, I get that there's a shared building, but that could also kind of be like a community center, right? Or
what I noticed because I went to their meeting, was it last week? Time
Correct.
is all one big blur for me right now with a newborn. But what I noticed even at the meeting, once you get that idea in your head and you guys are all on the same kind of page, I noticed that there's a whole bunch of kids there, and there was 2 parents that came in and they gathered up all the kids and took them to the playground because it was interfering with your guys' presentation. And at the end, all the adults got together and put away the chairs. It was like all these people were already thinking in that way, and a neighborhood, you have the intimacy of having these meetings and planning your neighborhood together. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, if it's strictly just shared amenities, then yeah, it would be the same as a regular strata. But I think with co-housing, one of the main differences is that you surround yourself with people that share the same values and have similar interests. So, instead of thinking of your neighbors as just random people that happen to be living close to you, then you develop relationships with them. So it's more like you're living beside friends and family, right? So once you kind of wrap your head around that, it just takes it to a whole different level. It's not just strangers, but it's people that you know and you respect, that you care to develop meaningful relationships with. It's the kind of people that you would invite at your house on a Saturday night, not just people who would, say, talk about the weather over the fence, so.
Yeah, and I think there's also physical aspects of a co-housing community that would be very different from, say, just a community with say, a rec center or something that once in a while the community gets together. That, you're designing your community to fit your needs. And a lot of co-housing communities, primarily they do is they take the vehicle infrastructure and they move it to the periphery, to the outside. And so instead of having like these barriers, which are streets that divide houses and driveways and garages where somebody can pull in on Friday afternoon after work, go in their garage, hit the clicker, and come out on Monday morning, instead you basically, you pull in, you park your vehicle, and then there's paths that basically lead people by the common house to their house. And also, from a parenting standpoint of view, it's nice to see that those common spaces are available. There's playgrounds, et cetera, where you can just let your kids out the door, and you don't always have to have 2 sets of eyes on them, and you don't have to worry so much about what's going on, right out front in your yard, and kids can run everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm. And then there's always people that are watching out for each other, right? Because it's everyone knows each other. I say that I live in Kelowna here. And I worry because people drive so fast in my neighborhood, and I'm thinking if a kid came out, they would get hit. And plus, if my kid escaped my house, God forbid, I don't know what neighbor would look out for him, or you don't know who your neighbors are as much today. So in this kind of situation, there's that safety aspect, which is the most attractive to me.
Yeah, it offers a lot of resiliency as well. Like our families are far away out of province, out of country, and if you think of it that way, like we're kind of on our own, and I think a lot of people feel that way. Maybe they have people close by, but a lot of people feel that they can't rely on other people, whereas like, what if you're sick one day? What if you can't make it home on time before your kid comes back from school? There's all those scenarios that, when you know that you have people that you can count on, like it's a huge safety net. What if you get hit by a car and you can't drive or cook for 6 weeks or something like that, like having people that you can depend on, I think is a huge component of it too.
Touching on the cooking, do they have community cooking nights, or do they all come together? Do they pool on?
So one of the concerns people have with co-housing sometimes is that feeling of feeling obligated to participate, or like, how many hours do I have to contribute to the community, or I'm not sure I really feel like I want to have dinners with my neighbors, and the thing is, it's always from you don't have to feel obligated. It's there if you want to, So,
but those same people might love gardening or doing something outside, or I know that some of these houses have like a woodworking or metal shop. Like there's other ways that they might want to be a part of the community that's not.
You can choose how you want to contribute,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's really important. Like, I look at my folks who are, they're retired and they live in this, what they thought as their ideal home, which is basically very isolated in the mountains. It's gorgeous, but they don't have an immediate community. And my mom loves to garden, and my dad likes to build and work on cars and stuff like that, and he'd be perfectly happy like helping somebody with a carpentry project or something like that, or woodworking. And if you give him that opportunity in a community, he's going to thrive. And the same for my mom. If she can just help somebody with like a community garden, like that would, she'd be extremely excited about that.
Well, it's kind of going back because even with this fruit is organic. Fruit should just be called fruit, but because we've done so many things, we've modified it, it's become now this is an organic fruit. Same kind of thing, like this co-housing, it's actually just a village. It's the way that we were meant to be. And you were talking about how you've traveled to third world countries. Do you want to just talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I didn't come to co-housing overnight. For me, it's been sort of several decades. And part of that started doing international development work and living in places where they still have traditional communities where there's sort of a core center and there's village elders and it's very different than what I experienced here when I got back to North America. In those traditional communities, everybody relies on everybody. Older people still hold a place in the community. They have value.
They're not tucked away in some retirement home.
Exactly. And there's that collective knowledge of the group that makes the community thrive, where we just don't take advantage of that.
We don't value it as much because the elders have so much wisdom that they could give us if we were open to listening.
Yeah, and in our community, it's elders, it's professionals from all walks of life. In our Penticton co-housing community that we're trying to form right now, we have all kinds of professionals that are architects, engineers, planners, people that have real value, tradespeople that together, when you put that in the same sort of community, and you have those dynamic conversations, you really, really build resiliency into your community.
Mm-hmm. But you're from Ontario, and so you moved to Kelowna. How do you find, like, as a 22-year-old, it's a young buck, is that what we call you?
Sure.
What's life like? Do you ever feel lonely or isolated here?
At first, it was really hard because Kelowna is a very cliquey place. Because there's so many tourists here, right? So people are coming and going all the time, and I get that people want to stick with their own group of friends because they don't know if somebody's going to come and then leave again, sort of thing. So.
But you were saying to me earlier before the show started, you were talking about, well, isn't that the same thing if you start a community out in the middle of nowhere? Aren't you kind of segregating yourself from the community you're already living in? And that was the question.
Yeah, that was one of my concerns, that it would segregate. Say if you had one community over here and it would be segregated from the rest of the city, like.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Like in fact, first of all, it doesn't have to be outside of town. Like a lot of co-housing communities will be right in the downtown core, and there's sometimes a group will purchase a piece of land and retrofit the existing building. So it happens. Not just you have to start your own village in on an undeveloped piece of land, but it can happen right downtown. But also it tends to have the opposite effect because it's a center. People will come, it'll draw the greater community towards the co-housing community because it's a shared space. People, people will have friends, they come over, kids come over, and so that space again is kind of becomes a sort of a catalyst for interacting with the bigger community as well. So I would say it probably has the opposite effect than segregating.
Yeah, and everything that I've read is when you put co-housing either adjacent or within existing neighborhoods, it does ground it more. It actually engages the community more. It gives them more of a focal point. Sometimes the common house gets used for other people outside the community for community events, and it actually increased the value of that community both socially, financially, and environmentally as well.
Mm-hmm. Any pedestrian-focused places tend to draw people. People like to hang out. You think of resorts or things like that. To the village, like people will go just to hang out there. So I think it kind of has a similar effect with co-housing as well. It's just a place that people love to come and visit and hang out. So it draws people.
So, I mean, I see all pros in this whole thing, even with that. Sometimes you're like, well, maybe I want to segregate myself and be around like-minded people and do community together. What are some actual cons that concerned you guys in the development of this whole process?
I guess the biggest one is you need to be willing to invest your time and effort into it. Just like any relationship that's worth having, I guess, whether it's with a partner or whatever, like you kind of have to invest to be able to get something back, So if someone's really not willing to invest in developing relationships and things like that, then they're probably not going to get value out of it,
Did you have any other concerns about it? I worry with your generation because I mean all the 20-somethings are it's Tinder and all these apps and stuff like this. How would you encourage that generation to do more of that? Because lots of them don't even they're behind their computer or behind a screen a lot of the time. But when you get into this kind of community, it becomes more about like playtime and human connection. And how do you make that transition for this generation?
Well, that's a tough question. I'm certainly probably not qualified to. I mean, in terms of co-housing gives you more opportunity, more social, spontaneous opportunities. I think Jonathan touched on earlier when he was talking about, nowadays we have casual conversations with our neighbor. We're more unlikely to text our neighbor if we need anything from our neighbor than anything else. Part of it's just those physical barriers that exist, the tall fences, the vehicle infrastructure, just the way the post-World War II neighborhoods are set up. We spend more time driving, less time having opportunities to actually be physically engaged with social interaction.
Like so many streets don't even have sidewalks. So I mean, like to venture out even on your street is you kind of
own risk.
Yeah, you have to.
Well,
really
that's how I feel about my neighborhood. And I mean, the only time I've talked to my neighbors was to apologize to them for the home birth I had. Hey, if you heard anything, I'm okay. So it's. And is your neighborhood like that? Do you know your neighbors?
I don't. I live in an apartment though, and.
You know Taylor.
I know my neighbor Taylor. Hey Taylor.
She's also works with Shaw. So for people who this is a good taste for them, but they want to know more about you guys, how can they find out more information?
Well, the best way to find out more about our project is to go on our website. So it's pentictoncohousing.com.
Does it look like this?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it has lots of information about our project, and we're putting up updates and things like that as well. So that's a good starting point. But I guess also reaching out and coming to one of our meetings to get to know the people and to start to get involved and find out more. I guess one of the beauty about co-housing and being early in this stage. Is that people can get involved, get to know people before they have to commit even financially. So
they can decide, I don't want to live next to this guy.
Yeah, I can understand that. And another thing is we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. There's 12 completed co-housing communities in BC. There's over 170 of them in North America. And the first co-housing community wasn't until the early 90s. So this is really taking off. This is catching on. There's a need and a place for it. And we have plenty of resources to draw upon.
Well, I told my husband, I said, if we lived in Penticton, I would be like giving you guys a down payment or whatever you needed, like like yesterday. So I'm sold. What about you, Kristen?
You definitely sold me. We have to start one in Kelowna now.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
So if you are a Kelowna resident, you can come to us, Penticton, go to pentictoncohousing.org. Is there anything else that we haven't mentioned that you'd like to mention?
No, I don't think so. It's pentictoncohousing.com.
No, it's not. I'm trying to get them to on my side. pentictoncohousing.com.
Correct.
Yeah.
.org. .Kelowna. Okay, well, thanks so much for coming, you guys.
Thanks for
Well,
having
thanks,
us.
thanks for having us.
And keep us informed on how the next steps.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Good job.
Good job.
Another one.
Let them bite
Safely
the dust.
done.
Now I'm gonna go cry in my pillow with my babies.
Don't cry with your babies. Their babies are nice. They should cheer you up.
Well, the whole colicky in the beginning
Yeah.
can be like. That's what it feels like.
No idea.
No idea.
No, my
Three
children,
girls.
my children were all perfect. They never cry.
Annette, I'm going to call you on that one too and find out.
So, are we? Do we know what's coming up next week? Are we going to?
Well, we're trying to get the Kelowna's newest morning show, Christy and
right,
Brian, on
right.
the show next week.
Cool.
And it's funny because our hairdresser, Christy's and ours,
Yeah.
Christy on Sun FM, she publicly was trying to hook up our hairdresser with Ari, who is the afternoon guy, I think, at Sun FM.
This is very confusing.
Well, on next week's show, we're going to continue trying to find Kara, her soulmate. So
So this is like
bachelors.
this is now the dating game.
This is the dating
I think I go
game.
sit in the truck.
The D stands for dating.
Oh, okay.
Dating.
And as long as the eldest still doesn't stand for
Dating Lisa. Oh, this is going sideways.
we don't need that. We should do a different extra.
Yeah, we totally
We should just cut and start again.